but we do have food trucks in San Diego, Atlantic City, and Maryland, and we have a fourth coming actually to Maryland as well. So in 3 years, I think when I was talking on this group first, we had 0 food trucks, and I was cooking from stand-up grills and at wineries with a foldable tailgate grill and cooler to now having 3 operable food trucks with a fourth coming. It's been pretty incredible amount of growth in that amount of time, and we always say we might be the worst case study in the history of business school case studies because we just got all of our initial revenue from winning competitions. Obviously, you can't do, but we won the Sam Adams National Brewing the American Dream competition. We got, won a lot of Georgetown University competitions. And, to Bob's point is, how do I go from, I was a Navy submarine officer, and now I'm actually still active duty. I'm a Navy JAG, so I'm a lawyer for the Navy. But I think it's always funny to hear people, or the old saying that used to, better go to college or else you'll be flipping burgers, because it's always a pejorative towards, food service in a way, which I never really liked. But it's funny, I sit here with, not bragging, just saying I have undergrad from the Naval Academy, 2 master's degrees from MIT, a master's degree from the Naval War College, and a JD from Georgetown. And I was last weekend flipping actually 300 burgers in New York City out of a food truck for about 300 homeless veterans for Veterans Day. So that's or else you'll be flipping burgers, I guess, unless you get more degrees than that. Not to be conceited, but as a kind of a pushback on that pejorative. But really why I started it, and I would never claim I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. I actually think I'm very much a government employee at heart, because when I was applying for colleges out of high school in 2008, my parents lost their small water bottling business. They used to do custom labels on water bottles, and the economic downturn caused them to lose their business. And me and my brother would sit at the dinner table for months while they're between losing the company and trying to get jobs, like not really knowing if next week we would have food or not, or if we'd have a home. And that's when both him and I decided, well, we don't want to put anything more on mom and dad. We're going to go to service academies. So we both went to service academies to fund our education. And having a comfortable government paycheck has always been great, but I again experienced some unsavory and horrific experiences secondhand through the entrepreneurial journey. When in 2019, I had a Naval Academy classmate who I played football with. He left the service after his 5-year commitment, and he was trying to start several businesses, and he kept failing, and he was falling into debt and depression. And while I was in law school, actually, he died by suicide because he felt like he had no more purpose in life. So if my parents losing their business and losing a friend to suicide didn't tell me to not be an entrepreneur, I don't know what else would. But instead, I decided to look what was out there for veterans starting businesses. And there's actually a lot of nonprofits. I will admit there's a lot of resources. But my biggest complaint is there's a lot of resources that are a mile wide and an inch deep, as in they help any veteran start any business, but at the end of the day, they're really just sending them on along with a 2-week-long course and a PDF packet, and they say they help 30,000 veterans annually when really I don't actually know what they're contributing. So I decided to change that and flip it and hyper focus in one industry that's near and dear to me, which is the culinary industry, because I grew up in a big Italian family. As soon as I could stand on a step stool, I was in a kitchen cooking with my grandmother. And I actually ended up getting to add to this ridiculous degree menu. I got my culinary degree from Anne Arundel Community College back in 2021, just to professionalize that. But that was after starting CHOW. But I digress. It was a profession that I felt was important to the military. 15% of the military is trained in the culinary arts in some way. The startup costs, the fail rates are exceedingly high, especially for service members who are potentially spending a life savings to get that started and are deterred from those risks. So what we do at Let's CHOW is we start veterans, military spouses, and military connected refugees. We've started an Iraqi military Iraqi woman who was the spouse of a army translator who was granted asylum in the United States after the collapse in 2008 or 2007. And they've lived in the Anne Arundel County area for then. She helped, we helped her start her falafel business, but we're also having 4 Afghan refugees who are military connected to start this newest 4th truck that I was alluding to that's going to be in Maryland. So we do serve a wide range of people. We do overlap with a lot of different demographics, such as immigrants. A high population of immigrants, whether they're veterans or military spouses, have gone through our program. But what we do is we start them off with whatever training level they have in the culinary industry, whether that's never chopped a vegetable and served it to somebody to have been in and out of kitchens for 20 years. We start them at a level that they're comfortable with, and we get them into the food trucks to start cooking for customers. And like I was mentioning, the New York City event for events to fight and combat food insecurity. And what we do through that is we teach them everything it is from the marketing to the mincing of onions to the menu sourcing that has to do with being the perfect little microcosm that the food truck is of the culinary industry, where as I do every time I'm in the truck, I'm turning around and talking to customers taking orders, turning back around, putting gloves on and preparing the food, turning back out and delivering it, and then also doing conflict resolution for an order I most likely screwed up. But there's a lot there. Whenever you're in the food truck, you really do get the immersion experience. And what we do is we help these budding companies grow, develop an LLC, develop marketing strategies and things like that. So we are a full service. We like to call ourselves a food truck MBA. But we aren't just focused on food trucks. In fact, we've majority of our business owners that have graduated from our programs are not interested in food trucks at all. For example, the Annapolis truck is actually a coffee company run by a military spouse who grew up in Guatemala, who goes home every year to source her beans from her hometown and roast them in Annapolis. And she uses the truck not to start a food truck, but to get product market fit for a future brick and mortar and grocery shelf. And she's doing that through the Chevrolet American Legion, through her contacts in Annapolis, and has been quite successful. To the same point where we actually have a Filipino street food menu out in San Diego that's working towards becoming a brick and mortar. And they're using the food truck to not only gain the expertise, but also get potentially more favorable loans from lending institutions of having years of sales data. So as we continue to grow and add more trucks, we're going to continue to expand our programs. But the goal is to find somewhere in Maryland that would house we call it our CHOW hall concept, as in a hub or incubator that's going to be equivalent to a hamburger university that McDonald's runs, where it brings people in who are going to be future franchisees for them and trains them in sort of a boot camp style. That's what we're actually planning to do next. And I'm actually in Florida right now, stationed down here at Naval Air Station Pensacola, but I am moving back to Frederick, Maryland, actually, with my family, and taking a position at the Pentagon for the next few years. So I will be back in Maryland here in June, and that's really the next big strategic update. But like Amanda said, looked at me a couple years ago saying, this guy doesn't even have a food truck. What's next? And here we are in 3 years. So we might be growing faster than we can. We might have that hub, and I might be talking again in 2 or 3 years on this group and talking about the growth. But that is the next thing. And I guess the last thing I'll leave with you before the Q&A is we do sustain ourselves on grants and donations. So we aren't, our food trucks do produce revenue to continue to operate the trucks. They pay for the maintenance, they pay for the insurance, they pay for the marketing and things we need to do. So as a service to the veterans who run it, we're able to take care of the trucks and maintain them, but our predominantly come from grants and donations. So although we don't want to ask directly to this group for donations, but we do always say during the season of giving, if you are able to, after today, share us with 22 of your contacts, that symbolizes the 22 veterans who die by suicide every day. And if you can share us with 22 people, we'd greatly appreciate that. But I still don't pay myself. So that's the big thing, is understanding this is a 3-year runway and I still haven't taken $1 from this. You have to do this as a side project along with it, unless you have a different source of income. Just know in the first year, we only made $8,000. We are now at $500,000 in revenue. And we're valued at over $1 million with assets and contacts and everything with in-kind donations and things like that. We have a federal trademark for our logo. There's a lot of things that go into that, but that is a ridiculous growth timeline. I'm not saying it to brag, obviously. I'm just saying this is not the norm. In the same way that you can't look at an athlete like a Bryce Harper and be like, yep, my kid is going to be that good if I train. Like, there's just some things that will get in your way, or just some naturally occurring things that are going to stunt growth or just stunt expectations. I don't think we're unique in any way that's different from anybody else in this group who could start. I'm just saying the timing worked out with us. I think COVID played into our advantage, where we went from starting right before COVID in January 2020 to having COVID. And then the culture changed with meetings, where it used to be where, hey, walk up here, or hey, come on the phone. Zoom and all the face-to-face things over the computer became the norm. And I was able to sit down from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for months at a time and just talk to people. That's the biggest thing is that amount of time of talking to people and how to grow this got squished down because of the pandemic, because people were at home able to talk, and I could go hour to hour to hour without having to commute to a different place, or be on a less personable phone call, and actually really learn how to do what I wanted to do. But the biggest thing I would suggest with the start out is know you're not going to have the funding you need to pay yourself in the first year, or even run the organization to a max capacity. If you're starting grassroots like we did, if you have some type of independent wealth or foundation that can go into it, absolutely, that changes the growth timeline. But my biggest suggestion is, people always say, read the books and do the entrepreneurial things and this and that. Those definitely help. Classes help. Accounting classes have helped me in a lot of ways. But if you pick something that you're passionate about and you have a cause, you're going to be energized and you're going to find solutions naturally. So that would be my biggest suggestion, is if it's not something you feel energized by, that you can sacrifice vacation days and weekends and time with family for, then maybe it's a great side hustle or hobby of giving back. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be a growth trajectory to be a national organization or even a very strong local organization. So there is no formula, and we are, like I said, the worst case study in the history of business school case studies, but we got there. My hope is for me to be doing this full time in 5 years. There's a possibility for that. We've partnered with Amazon. We've partnered with Sam Adams. We partnered with the Robert Irvine Foundation. So there is some national growth that could occur in 5 years. I'd like to have two major projects going. One is the CHOW Hall that I mentioned, a full service 2-floor. Top floor is office space, bottom floor is kitchen space that provides different revenue streams for budding veteran-owned businesses, whether it's takeout, delivery, catering. The food trucks can be there too, and then the office space, so they can go and sit down, whether it's in front of a computer screen or an in-person, and talk to an accountant, talk to a lawyer, talk to somebody who's able to help them manage their business. An incubator, if you will, a business incubator. And the second project is a brand new food truck. And when I say brand new, I mean brand new vehicle as well. Food trucks are actually purchased with older vehicles that are the diesel FedEx trucks that you typically see. Brand new as in it's ready to go, and it's going to be a national disaster response and humanitarian aid vehicle, where we can go to hurricane or tornado mass shooting sites and provide hot meals to people who need it. And we would have a team of veterans in the local area, or people willing to travel, myself included, that go to these places. And it would be a traveling boot camp outside of the disaster relief functionality. So it would be 3 weeks in New Orleans, 4 weeks in Miami, up the coast, down the coast, and really allow the veterans in that area to immerse themselves in the food truck program for 3 weeks before they, continue on. So we can't be everywhere all at once. We're trying to meet the demand, but that national vehicle and the hub are my two biggest things.